I still remember the exact moment my world collapsed. It wasn't a car crash. It wasn't some tragic accident. It happened in a glass conference room. Brightstone Analytics. Chicago's skyline behind me. Sunlight bouncing off the glass walls. And 20 people staring at me. Richard Calloway. My boss. My tormentor. He was standing there like a predator. Calm. Confident. Cruel. My question is simple, Emily, he said, his voice cold and steady. Did you approve these projections or not? I froze. On the screen in front of me, the Carter Tech financial forecast. The project I had spent 6 months building. A multi-million-dollar contract. The numbers weren't mine. Revenue projections were inflated. Risk models missing. Sections of the system altered. It was catastrophic. Richard, these aren't my numbers, I said, voice trembling slightly. A few heads turned. Some eyebrows raised. Some smirked. Richard's lips curled into a small, almost imperceptible smile. Really, he said. Calm. Too calm. He clicked the remote. The screen changed. System logs appeared. User, Emily Harper. File submitted. 8:43 p.m. Date, last night. My stomach dropped. I hadn't even been in the office last night. That's impossible, I said quickly. I didn't upload that report. Richard tilted his head. The system logs don't lie, he said, a trace of amusement in his voice. I realized then this wasn't an investigation. It was a trap. A performance. My account must have been accessed, I said, trying to keep my voice calm. Richard shook his head. Highly unlikely. The silence in the room thickened. 20 pairs of eyes. Watching me. Judging me. Waiting. He started walking slowly toward the screen. Step by step. Like he was the director of this tragedy. Emily, he said, finally turning toward the room. Accuracy is everything in our business. His voice carried that fake professionalism. The kind executives use when they're about to destroy someone. These projections were delivered to Carter Tech last night, he continued. A senior manager asked nervously. How bad are the numbers? Richard gestured to the screen. Extremely optimistic. The room shifted. A few forced laughs. Not friendly. Not comforting. I felt my chest tighten. I could barely breathe. Richard, I built this forecasting system. These numbers aren't mine, I said firmly. Then I saw it. The small, satisfied smirk on his face. He wasn't surprised. He was expecting this. Emily, he said, slow and deliberate. That's what worries me. I swallowed hard. What did that mean? You're one of our most experienced analysts, he continued, which makes this situation extremely concerning. I felt my pulse spike. Something in his tone made my blood run cold. Give me a few hours to check the system, I pleaded. Richard sighed. That dramatic, calculated sigh. The kind designed to make everyone in the room feel they're watching justice unfold. I'm afraid the damage has already been done, he said. Then he said it. The words that shattered everything I had worked for. Emily Harper, effective immediately, your employment with Brightstone Analytics is terminated. The words hit me like a hammer. 8 years. Gone in one sentence. No warning. No discussion. No investigation. Just humiliation. In front of everyone. The meeting continued. Numbers, budgets, schedules. As if my life didn't just implode. No one defended me. No one even looked at me. Loyalty in corporate offices disappears the moment you're a problem. I stood up slowly. My legs felt like lead. Every step toward the door was a struggle. The security guard was waiting. Polite. Professional. Detached. Ms. Harper, he said. I nodded. We walked together. Whispers followed us. Glares. Avoided eye contact. 8 years of loyalty turned to gossip in minutes. I packed my desk in silence. A coffee mug. A notebook. A framed photo from my first company retreat. Little pieces of a life I thought I had built. When I stepped outside, the cold Chicago wind hit me. Cars rushed past. People hurried along the sidewalks. Life moved on like nothing had happened. But inside me, something had shifted. Anger. Frustration. A fire started in my chest. I replayed the meeting over and over in my mind. Richard had been too prepared. Too calm. Too certain the blame would fall on me. I remembered every subtle glance, every small smirk, every word chosen carefully to humiliate me. Something inside me snapped. I hadn't made that mistake, which meant someone else had. And when I found out who, the man who destroyed me, would regret it. Because sometimes revenge isn't born from anger. It's born from truth. And sometimes truth is patient. It waits. It watches. And when the moment is right, it destroys everything built on lies. The wind howled outside my apartment window as I sat on the edge of my bed. The day had been a blur. I still couldn't believe it. Richard Calloway, my boss, my tormentor, my executioner. He had stood there like a predator in the conference room, smiled at my misery, and ended 8 years of my life in a few calm sentences. I had walked home like a ghost, the city around me moving at normal speed, oblivious to the fact that my entire world had shattered. I sat there for what felt like hours, staring at the ceiling. The truth kept repeating in my mind. I didn't do it. I didn't submit that report. Someone framed me. But who? And why? Then my phone buzzed. It was a message from Melissa. Melissa, my only friend at Brightstone. The one person I had ever trusted. Emily, I saw the news. Are you okay? Call me. My hands shook as I typed back. I'm okay. Just trying to process everything. A few minutes later, she called. Emily, her voice cracked with urgency. I can't believe what happened. Are you alone? Yes, I whispered. My throat was tight, my mind racing. Okay, listen carefully, she said. I was going through some server logs last night, just checking errors before the Carter Tech submission, and I noticed something weird. I felt a cold chill run down my spine. What do you mean? Someone accessed the system remotely, she said slowly, using her credentials. I froze. Remote. I whispered. Yes. The timestamp matches the report submission Richard used to pin on you, Melissa said. Her voice was careful, almost trembling. I could feel my pulse accelerating. So, someone framed me, I said, barely audible. Melissa didn't answer immediately. Exactly. But Emily, she said finally, this wasn't random. Someone planned this. And I think Richard had a hand in it. I closed my eyes. My hands were shaking. Richard's calm smile in the conference room. The way he had walked slowly toward the screen. The way he had delivered his lines like a performance. It all made sense now. I wasn't just humiliated. I had been set up. Melissa continued. I've downloaded the logs. Every access point, every timestamp, every detail. You need to see it. I took a deep breath and tried to steady myself. Send them, I said. Within minutes, an encrypted file appeared in my inbox. I hesitated. Opening it felt like stepping into a trap. But I had no choice. The logs were detailed. Every login, every system change, every modification. And there it was. The proof. My credentials had been used, but the login wasn't from my computer. Not even from the office network. It was an external IP. Somewhere unknown. I stared at the screen, my mind spinning. Someone had deliberately set me up. Someone had accessed my account, submitted the report, made it look like I had made a catastrophic mistake. And then, just to seal the trap, Richard had humiliated me in front of everyone. I felt my chest tighten, anger coursing through me. This wasn't just revenge-worthy, it was criminal. Melissa's voice pulled me out of my thoughts. Emily, do you understand what this means? I took a deep breath. Yes, I said finally. It wasn't a mistake. It was a plan. And Richard, he's behind it. Melissa sighed audibly. I know, but you need to be careful. If he finds out we're looking into this, he'll cover his tracks. You know him. I nodded silently. I knew him better than anyone. Smart, calculating, ruthless. But now, I had something he hadn't counted on, evidence. And a partner. Melissa, we'll need more than these logs, I said, my mind racing. We need proof that ties this directly to him. Melissa agreed. We can cross-reference access times, IP addresses, track VPNs, proxies, anything. I felt a flicker of hope for the first time since the meeting. This is just the beginning, I whispered to myself. I spent the next few hours combing through every detail, every IP, every login, every system error. Patterns started to emerge. The external IP was sophisticated, not random, not an accident. Someone knew exactly what they were doing, and someone wanted me to take the fall. Richard's motives were clear now. The Carter Tech project was his golden opportunity. He wanted to make the projections look perfect. He used my account to do it, and when the results were in, he threw me under the bus. My blood boiled. I clenched my fists, staring at the screen. Melissa's voice cut through my thoughts again. Emily, you okay? I'm more than okay, I said, my voice low, steady. I'm not the victim here. Not anymore. She laughed softly, relieved. That's what I wanted to hear. I leaned back in my chair, thinking. I needed a plan. I couldn't just rush in. Richard was smart, and he would cover his tracks. But he had made one mistake, underestimating me. I remembered the subtle things in the conference room. The small smirk. The way he glanced at the board members. The rehearsed lines. He thought I was finished. But he didn't know I had Melissa. He didn't know I had the logs. He didn't know I was already thinking 3 steps ahead. This isn't just about clearing my name, I said aloud, more to myself than to Melissa. It's about justice. About revenge. And I'm going to make sure he pays. Melissa was silent for a moment. Then she said, we'll do it together. Step by step. The thought steadied me. I wasn't alone. I spent the rest of the night meticulously mapping out the evidence. Every timestamp. Every access point. Every connection. And somewhere deep inside me, a new feeling emerged. Not fear. Not despair. Control. I wasn't powerless anymore. Richard had humiliated me in front of the entire company. He had tried to ruin me, but he had left a trail, and I was going to follow it. By morning, I had a plan. Step 1. Uncover more evidence. Step 2. Ensure nothing could be erased or hidden. Step 3. Make Richard regret underestimating me. And somewhere in the back of my mind, I knew this would be personal. This wouldn't just be about exposing him. It would be about making him feel the same helplessness he had forced me to feel. Because sometimes, revenge doesn't just come from anger. It comes from being patient. It comes from waiting for the perfect moment. And this was the perfect moment. The next morning, I couldn't sleep. I had stayed up all night tracing the IP addresses, cross-referencing timestamps, and studying every detail of the server logs Melissa had sent me. Every time I thought I had a lead, it felt like the trail went cold. But then something caught my eye. A pattern. A subtle inconsistency in the logs. Not in the times or IPs, but in the way certain files were modified. Only one person had access to those modifications. And the pattern led directly to Richard Calloway. I felt my stomach twist. Melissa had said he might be involved, but seeing it on paper, it was undeniable. Richard hadn't just thrown me under the bus to cover himself. He had used my credentials deliberately. He had manipulated the system. And worst of all, he had done it to secure a personal gain that no one else knew about. A small, private contract he had set up. Hidden from the company, hidden from the executives. I leaned back in my chair, stunned. He wasn't just a cruel boss. He was a con artist. And now I had proof. Melissa called me shortly after. Emily? Did you see it? She asked. Yes, I whispered. I see it all. He's been hiding a separate contract, funneling the numbers and framing me so no one would notice. There was a pause on the line. Emily, this is huge. If we expose this, Richard could lose everything. But you need to be careful. He's smart. He won't go down quietly. I nodded, though she couldn't see me. I know, I said. But he humiliated me in front of everyone. He destroyed my career. And now, I'm going to make him regret it. Melissa's voice was quiet, but firm. I'm with you, Emily. Every step of the way. That was all I needed. I spent the next few days building my plan. Not just any plan. A strategy that would expose Richard without risking our safety. Step 1. Gather undeniable proof. Step 2. Make it public. Step 3. Ensure Richard couldn't cover it up. I started small, reviewing old emails, going through archived files, tracing every move he had made in the last 6 months. And that's when I found it. A hidden folder on the server. It wasn't supposed to exist. Not according to company records. Inside were emails, contracts, and spreadsheets, evidence of Richard's secret deals. Everything he had tried to hide. I felt a rush of adrenaline. This was it. The smoking gun. Melissa and I began to go through the files carefully. Every document, every email, every timestamp. It all pointed to one thing. Richard had intentionally manipulated the Carter Tech projections to cover his tracks. And he had framed me to protect himself. I couldn't believe it. For months, I had worked tirelessly, and all the while, he had been plotting behind my back. But now I had the upper hand. Melissa looked over my shoulder. "This is perfect," she said quietly. "We can expose him and make sure everyone knows the truth." I nodded slowly. Yes, but it has to be done carefully. One wrong move, and he could erase everything. Over the next week, we created a detailed timeline. Every action Richard had taken. Every moment he had tried to cover up his tracks. We mapped out the emails, the logins, the manipulations. It was meticulous work, exhausting but exhilarating. The closer we got to finishing the timeline, the more real it felt. Richard had underestimated me. He thought humiliating me in front of the company would silence me. He was wrong. I started imagining the moment I would confront him, not with anger, not with shouting, but with proof. The files, the logs, the contracts, all laid out. He would have no choice. No words, no lies, just the truth. And the best part? He would know it was personal, because this wasn't just about justice. It was about revenge. Melissa and I also started collecting witness statements from colleagues who had seen irregularities in Richard's projects. People who had been too scared to speak up while he was in power. They agreed to help, quietly, without exposing themselves prematurely. The network of evidence was growing. And with each new piece, my confidence grew. Then something unexpected happened. Richard reached out. A simple email. No subject. "Emily, we need to talk. It's urgent." My heart skipped a beat. Had he found out? Melissa and I stared at the screen, tense. "Don't reply," she said immediately. "Not yet. We don't know what he's planning." I nodded. Deep down, I knew he was trying to manipulate me again. Richard didn't beg unless he needed something. And now he was about to make a huge mistake. We continued working through the files late into the night. The apartment was quiet except for the hum of my laptop. The city outside moved on, oblivious to the storm brewing in my mind. Every click, every scroll, every detail felt like a step closer to exposing him. Melissa looked at me. "Emily, once we do this, there's no turning back. Are you sure?" I stare at the screen, at the evidence that Richard had tried so hard to hide. "Yes," I said firmly. "I've waited too long. He humiliated me, destroyed my career, and thought I was powerless. Not anymore." And in that moment, I knew it. I wasn't a victim. I wasn't weak. I wasn't defeated. I was ready. Revenge wasn't just a word anymore. It was a plan, a mission, a storm that was about to hit Richard Calloway like nothing he had ever experienced. And the moment I finally revealed the truth, he would realize just how much he had underestimated me. Because I wasn't just coming for justice. I was coming for him. And he wouldn't see it coming. The morning sunlight spilled into my apartment, but I barely noticed it. I hadn't slept. Not properly. Not since discovering Richard's secret contracts. Not since seeing the truth for myself. Melissa and I had spent the entire night going through the files again. Every email. Every access log. Every hidden contract. By now, it was undeniable. Richard Calloway had manipulated everything. And now, it was my turn. I sat at my desk, staring at the files, imagining the moment he would realize just how powerful I had become. "You ready?" Melissa's voice broke the silence. I looked up at her, determined. "I've been ready since the day he humiliated me," I said, voice steady. "Today, he pays." We started with the simplest move, subtle sabotage. Richard had built his empire on appearances, perfection in numbers, flawless execution. If even one small detail crumbled, it would shake him. Melissa had already planted the seeds. Files Richard relied on had been slightly altered, not enough to ruin him, but enough to make him nervous. It was almost artistic. The first email went out, carefully worded, from a fake address, using technical jargon only Richard would understand. Your attention is required. Please review immediately. We didn't know if he would take the bait, but I felt the thrill of anticipation. Within 30 minutes, there was a reply. Richard. Calm. Calculated, but a hint of tension underneath. What is this? Melissa and I exchanged a glance. Yes, I whispered. It's working. The next move was riskier. I accessed the company's archive system. Using credentials Melissa had secured, I traced every file Richard had manipulated for the Carter Tech project. Every hidden document. Every altered log. Every secret email. And then, I found it. The email chain between Richard and a third-party contractor. Someone outside the company who had helped him manipulate the numbers. This was the smoking gun. I copied the entire chain to a secure drive, encrypted it, and prepared it for public release. But I didn't send it yet. Patience. That was the key. Richard had to feel confident. He had to think he was untouchable. Melissa and I watched as he tried to regain control internally. Suddenly, small inconsistencies began appearing in his reports, subtle errors only someone who knew the system inside out would notice. Richard's response was immediate. He panicked. His emails became defensive, terse, almost desperate. And I felt something I hadn't felt in months. Power. I wasn't just observing anymore. I was controlling the pace. I was setting the trap. But revenge, I reminded myself, wasn't about rage. It was about timing. Then came the first unexpected twist. I received a message on my personal email. Emily, be careful. They're watching. Don't trust anyone. The message had no name, no signature. Just a warning. My heart raced. Was Richard aware of what we were doing? Or was there someone else, someone higher up who had noticed the subtle anomalies in his reports? Melissa looked at me. What now? She asked. I hesitated. The thrill of danger was intoxicating, but I had to stay rational. We stay the course, I said finally. We don't panic. We watch and wait. Let them reveal themselves. And then it happened. Richard requested a private meeting. Alone. He wanted to speak to me. Not via email. Not with witnesses. The message was clear. He wanted control. He wanted to intimidate me. But this time, I wasn't afraid. I prepared. Every detail, every document, every possible question he could ask. When I walked into the room, he was there, waiting, calm, smiling, like a predator who thinks the prey is cornered. Emily, he said smoothly, I wanted to talk to you. Just you. I nodded. Of course, Richard. He motioned to the chair across from him. Sit. I did, keeping my eyes on him. You know, he said, leaning back, I've been hearing rumors. Strange things happening. Reports not matching expectations. Errors in the system. Do you know anything about that? I let out a small, controlled laugh. Yes, I said softly. I do. Richard's smile faltered slightly. What do you mean? I reached into my bag and pulled out the secure drive. Everything, I said. The hidden contracts. The manipulated reports. The emails. The logs. I placed it on the table between us. His eyes widened. Where did you get this? Melissa's voice echoed in my mind. Patience. I've had help, I said calm. Someone I trust. Richard's confident posture began to crumble. This is impossible, he stammered. I leaned forward slightly, voice low, controlled. Do you remember the day you humiliated me in front of everyone? The meeting? The smirk? He swallowed hard. That was the last mistake you'll make with me. For the first time, I saw fear in Richard's eyes. Real fear. The kind only comes when someone realizes the ground beneath them is about to collapse. I didn't have to say anything else. I didn't have to yell. The evidence spoke for itself. And in that moment, I realized something powerful. Revenge isn't about shouting or striking first. It's about precision, strategy, patience. And I had all three. Melissa's warning echoed again. Be careful. They're watching. I smiled faintly. Let them watch, I whispered, because the next move would be unstoppable. The day had finally arrived. Months of planning, sleepless nights, and meticulous strategy had led to this moment. Richard Calloway, my tormentor, my betrayer, my executioner, was about to realize that I wasn't just a victim. I was the storm he never saw coming. I had spent weeks preparing. Every document, every email, every hidden contract carefully stored, analyzed, and ready to expose him. Melissa had been my anchor through it all, her steady hands and calm mind helping me piece together the puzzle. I entered Brightstone Analytics one last time, not as an employee, not as a scared analyst, but as the person holding the power. The building was eerily quiet. Most people were in meetings, oblivious to the events about to unfold. I walked straight to Richard's office. The security guard barely glanced at me. I didn't even try to hide the purpose of my visit. Richard looked up from his desk, feigning calm. Emily, what are you doing here? I smiled faintly, placing the secure drive in front of him. The one containing months of proof. Hidden deals, manipulated reports, falsified projections, all pointing directly at him. I think you already know, I said softly. But just in case, let me remind you. His eyes flickered, but he quickly masked it with a smile. I don't know what you mean. You've been gone for months. I leaned forward, my voice calm but deadly serious. You humiliated me in front of the company. You tried to destroy my career. You thought I was powerless. You were wrong. Richard's face paled slightly. Emily, this is blackmail, isn't it? I shook my head. No. This isn't blackmail. This is truth. And it's coming to everyone who needs to see it. Investors. Board members. Everyone. For a moment, he looked like he might deny everything. But then I saw it, the small crack in his confident facade. Fear. Real, uncontainable fear. You can't, he whispered. You can't do this. I smiled, calm and unflinching. Watch me. I pulled out my phone and connected it to the conference room screen. The secure drive opened like a Pandora's box. Emails, logs, spreadsheets, contracts. All evidence displayed for anyone watching. Richard's mouth opened. Closed. Opened again. But no words came out. I've even included the chain of emails with your contractor. I continued. Every step you took to manipulate the Carter Tech projections, every attempt to hide your fraud, it's all here. He swallowed hard. His hands shook slightly as he reached for his desk. You don't understand, he said, voice trembling. I understand perfectly, I said. You humiliated me. You tried to ruin me. But today, I reclaim my life. Today, everyone knows the truth. I press play. The files, emails, and logs streamed across the screen. Melissa had already sent secure copies to the board and legal counsel, ensuring there was no way he could delete or manipulate the evidence. Richard's breathing became shallow. Panic spread across his face. You're crazy, he shouted. This will destroy me. I'll ruin you. I shook my head slowly. You already tried, remember? That didn't work. This is justice. And sometimes, justice looks a lot like revenge. He turned, pacing, desperate, trying to salvage something, anything. But every move was futile. Then came the twist I hadn't anticipated. A knock at the door. Melissa stepped in, calm and composed. Emily, they're on the line. The board, the investors, they've been briefed. They want a statement from Richard. He froze. What are you doing? Melissa's eyes met mine. We're finishing this, Emily. Together. Richard's panic was palpable. He realized too late that this wasn't a personal attack. It was professional exposure he couldn't hide. The board had already seen the evidence. Emails, logs, and contracts had been securely delivered. Every move he had made to manipulate the Carter Tech projections was now public knowledge. I watched as the weight of his crimes crashed down on him. His confident facade shattered completely. He wasn't just afraid. He was defeated. I felt a strange calmness wash over me. Months of planning, frustration, humiliation, all culminating in this moment. "Emily, please," he begged. "We can fix this. I'll do anything." I leaned in, voice low and controlled. "It's too late for apologies, Richard. Too late for excuses. Today, you face the consequences of your actions." Melissa and I left the office shortly after. Richard was still inside, panicked, trying to salvage the unsalvageable. I didn't look back. The city outside felt different now, alive in a way it hadn't before. I had walked through fear, humiliation, and betrayal, and emerged stronger. In the following weeks, the consequences of Richard's actions unfolded publicly. He was removed from his position. Investigations were launched. The investors, board members, and clients all knew the truth. And me? I reclaimed my career. Not by returning to Brightstone, but by leveraging the experience, the proof, and my skills to build something entirely new. Melissa and I started consulting independently, helping companies prevent the very fraud Richard had attempted. We were unstoppable. And through it all, I learned a lesson more valuable than any paycheck or position. Revenge is not about anger. It's not about immediate gratification. Revenge is patience, precision, strategy. It's about taking control when you've been powerless and using your strength to restore balance. And sometimes, the person who humiliated you, who tried to destroy you, will learn the hardest lesson of all. Never underestimate someone who has nothing left to lose, because they just might have everything to gain.